Tottenham finally get a new manager. I'm not even going to try and pronounce this guy's name. All right, I'll try. Ange Postecoglu?
Not the hard, bro. Ange Postecoglu.
There you go. All right. You're officially the master of pronunciations, and you're going to take it on from there then. What are you saying to me about this guy? Can he bring Tottenham to the next level? What is his track record looking like?
Well, if he is going to, he's going to need a lot of time. The guy, everywhere he's been, he's won. He won the Asian Cup with his home country of Australia. He then moved on to Japan, and then he went on to Celtic, where in both countries he won the title. But you have to say, I mean, you look at the names that Tottenham are being linked with, Nagelsmann, Tuchel, Luis Enrique. To go from that to Postecoglu, a 57-year-old manager, this is going to be his first experience in one of the big leagues, So I can understand where some of the Tottenham fans are a bit disappointed. But I mean, this guy's proven it. Now, whether that will work in the Premier League level, we'll see. But nothing's guaranteed. Luis Enrique isn't guaranteed. Neither is Nagelsmann. None of these are guaranteed. It's just, I mean,
especially when you're at Tottenham too, a team that struggles to win no matter who they bring in, it seems. So, I mean, are we gonna look at a similar type of thing here? A manager with a good track record coming in, a winning record, like you said, is coming to a team that historically does not win. It's like it's perfect. This is gonna be where it turns. Is how you pronounce his name again? Is Postecoglu going to make his name? Or is yeah, don't laugh at my pronunciation, but is he going to make his name, or is Tottenham going to keep up their name of biggest losers?
I will say this. I think he's a different type of manager to what they've hired the past 2 seasons. I don't think he'll succeed at Tottenham. I don't. But that's not necessarily down to him. I just look at the team in general, how they're set up. I mean, they don't even have a director of football right now. I know they signed an Australian guy to their board that helped speed up the signing of this Australian manager. But I mean, you look at the names that they're being linked with. I'll throw this out there. Harry Maguire, he will not be able to play in this guy's team. If you watch the match between Celtic and Shakhtar Donetsk, what Mudryk did to this guy's back line, Celtic's back line, Maguire's not playing in this guy's team. This guy has an extremely high line. And what's Maguire's biggest weakness? When there's so much space behind him. So, I mean, that just kind of tells you, I mean, the club is still lost. It's just...
What do Tottenham fans, what can they expect from this manager? You spoke about the high line. What else can they expect?
I think it'll be a slow start. Going from a back three to probably a back four. Tottenham team has been built around to play in a back three. Every manager that they've brought in, Nuno to Conte, back three. There's a lot of wing backs, not many fullbacks. So they're going to struggle just from the get-go if in that transition. But you've got to give him time. I'll say this, unlike Conte or Mourinho, maybe I would exclude Nuno because I don't think he's at that level. But the first two probably thought Tottenham were lucky to have them. Whereas Postecoglu, I'm not discrediting him, but he's probably looking at this as a huge opportunity for him compared to the other two managers where, they almost gave the vibe that the club was lucky to have them as the manager. So, I mean, from what I've seen, he gets it. He gets what the fans want. He certainly knows how to speak to the media, to the fans. So just give him time. He'll he'll bring good football at least. I don't know about the results, but he'll bring that.
So within that time, is Harry Kane going to be a part of that team?
I know a lot of people have said this guy is not of a big enough name. The manager is not a big enough name to tie Kane down to a new contract. That doesn't make sense to me because Mourinho was here. They weren't able to tie Harry Kane down to a longer contract. Conte was here. That didn't make Kane sign a new contract. I don't think it's necessarily going to be down to the manager. And as we know, Kane would most likely not force his way out. Still yet to be seen. But from what we've seen, he won't force his way out. So, I mean, I could probably see the manager having a conversation with him. And if Kane does want to leave, I don't think he'll stand in the way. He will probably, I mean, that might just help him, take that money and invest in other areas that you need because Tottenham need everybody, starting with the keeper, a center backs, center mid. And I mean, of course, if Harry Kane leaves, a striker, but I mean, they kind of have a replacement there in Richarlison. But I mean, I just feel that's the right action to take. I think they need to sell Harry Kane because last summer we know how much they overspent on for Conte, and from what I'm hearing, they're going to be restricted in terms of the funds that they're going to be able to spend. So I mean, they got to get that somewhere. They're not one of the biggest clubs in revenue, so as much, I mean, of course, the priority for fans is going to be to keep Harry Kane, but you got to look at it the other way around. Your team needs a big overhaul. And you have the best sellable asset right now in the world, possibly, perhaps.
Yeah, so I guess movement would benefit both sides at this point. Speaking of movement, though, around the Premier League, Alexis MacAllister has completed the signing from Brighton to Liverpool. We spoke about this in the past, but touch on it again. How do you think this affects? First, actually, before we even get into how MacAllister is going to affect Liverpool, how does this affect MacAllister's career?
Big, big. It's huge for a guy. I mean, he was a no-name player just 2, 3 years ago, right? And I mean, I remember when he first came onto the scene, we made fun of him, an Argentinian with a Scottish name, McAllister. Like you don't see that in Argent or let alone in any South American countries. But he's proven it. He has been on a steady conjecture of an upward one throughout his career at Brighton, culminating in a World Cup victory. And mind you, the guy could have left for free this summer. He could have easily left for free and gotten a lot more money for himself in wages. But no, before the World Cup, he agreed a new contract, albeit only a year extension. But he agreed that with the club that he made his name at to give them, at least 35 million pounds. That's nothing, at this current market. But, when we see players like Lukaku, all these guys who don't really respect their clubs, right? And it's nice to see. I hate that he went to Liverpool, but from what I've seen, he seems like a genuine person, not just a nice, but a genuine person.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, he left Brighton as in good spirits with the Brighton fans. So I mean, that's also a good sign for Liverpool, in my opinion, too, to have a player coming in that has that kind of class to him. I think that would just help the dressing room in general. I know from his footballing abilities, to me, he seems like he slots in perfectly. Exactly what we said that Liverpool need, kind of that creative attacking midfielder. Firmino is going to be out, so they're going to be losing a lot of their creativity. He comes in and he adds that. I found it interesting though because we have seen MacAllister recently as well playing in a kind of a deep line role for Brighton, which he did well. I thought he did very well. And they already have Thiago there. So I'm kind of interested to see how Klopp decides to set up his side and to see who's going to be playing what role? Or is MacAllister just going to be used as kind of that number 10?
I mean, Thiago plays half the season, so no worries there.
So that's it. So he's kind of just really is to replace Thiago, you think?
No, I don't think so. I think he's there to replace. I mean, he could play in all three. I guess not the defensive midfield position, but any of the midfield, two midfields. You know, I mean, he could replace Thiago. He could replace Henderson. I mean, he should replace Henderson. Henderson has fallen off. His peak season being 2020, and I could. The only thing that worries me about McAllister is though he's always had a very good midfield partner next to him. You know, I think he's shown more with Caicedo next to him. Also in Argentina, he had Enzo Fernandez and Rodrigo de Paul next to him. He's always had competent midfield players around him.
So you kind of need somebody to break up the play next to him, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and because that's where my worry comes from, I guess. In that, you know, I mean, I've already said it, but Fabinho's washed. So
yeah, and then when you were talking about him to replace Henderson, I was the first thought that came to my mind is that's not a like for like swap. He's missing the physicality to keep up with what Henderson brings to that Liverpool team, in my opinion. But is that, I mean, how else would they line up, right? Maybe they gotta get that sitting defensive midfielder in order for him to play.
yeah, I mean, also, why were nobody else in for him? You know, I know this is what Liverpool kind of do. They get their signings on early, and I mean, this wasn't quiet. You know, the transfers for, let's say, Fabinho. Fabinho was quiet. I mean, it came out of nowhere, and they announced it like 12 hours after the first news broke. I just wonder why nobody was in for him. You know, I'm sure everybody would have known that there was a release clause, 35 million pounds. I mean, do Brighton know something that we don't? Like, right? I mean, I just for a player of proven quality in the Premier League for that price, it's just unheard of that there was no competition.
Yeah, that is quite strange. That is quite strange now that you mention it for real. I wonder why. There must be a good reason though. If anybody, yo, if you know, write it down there, yo. Write it down there for real. Let us know. But yo, a player that, you know, talking of players who could break up the play next to him, a player who honestly could suit that role, Declan Rice, who is also, he has been confirmed to leave after the Conference League victory. Wow.
Yeah, the chairman's come out and said he will leave.
Now that's one that's not quiet at all. Everybody is swooping for this guy. Hopefully it's to the Arsenal, you feel me? But I would say we're the strongest suitors right now. We're probably the best suited for him as well, for his career. Match made in heaven.
I mean, it's funny how football works out sometimes. We know Rice and Mount are or have been long friends, right, since their youth days. Chelsea have been wanting this guy for 3 years. They messed up one season, and this is the best chance to buy the player. And it just happened to coincide with one of their worst seasons ever. It is the worst season ever in their history. So in that sense, football is it's funny, it's cruel, but like you said, he wants to stay in London. I think that's been said. And it's not quiet. I'm sure Arsenal have been in contact with Rice since January, right? That's when they realized they probably wouldn't be able to get him in the winter transfer window. So they pivoted to the likes of Jorginho and stuff. But I mean, we've already had this discussion, right? Where is his best position? I feel like, I mean, another guy that you're being linked with, I feel like Caicedo could play that role better than Rice. Not the defensive role, the box, the bombing up and down forward, to replace Xhaka.
I don't know still. He could, but Declan Rice gives me a lot more confidence because he's just more experienced. He's been in the league longer. He plays for England internationally, starts for England. He has
I
the
mean,
leadership
so does
qualities.
Maguire. So does Maguire.
Nah, bro. Okay, but come on, bro. Declan also has the leadership qualities. Captain of West Ham. He clearly showed those. I even think he shows leadership qualities in the England squad. He may not be the captain, but you can clearly see the guy is motivated, determined, and he has that presence for him, for his team, for the players around him, and for his opponents too. I think Declan for me is the choice between the two for what we need and as a player. Who you think? Declan Rice or Caicedo?
Ideally both,
Honestly,
but
ideally both for real. Ideally both.
because then that's how I'm looking at it. Like Rice to be the sitting guy and Caicedo to be the one more involved in both phases of play. But I mean, Arsenal, it's not like they don't have money. You know, they were gonna spend 95 million on Modric in the winter. It's not like they don't have money. They it's there to spend it. But can they spend 90 mil on Rice and what, probably 80 on Caicedo? Probably not. So you're probably gonna have to decide between one of those two.
It's gonna have to be a decide. And especially the fact that Caicedo just recently signed a new contract, that's also kind of ringing in my ears to say, yo, now we're gonna be overpaying for the player. At least with Declan, maybe it costs more, but I feel like I'm gonna be getting more. Maybe that's a psychological thing though, to be honest, you know. What's that? The psychological law is like where you if you lose more or when you lose something, it hurts more than when you gain it in a sense. But
Well, I don't know the fuck you just said.
I don't know. There's a psychological term for that, but I don't know the name of it, so I need to research that. But moving along, yo, we spoke in our last epi to Sanjay, big up Sanjay by the way, and we were discussing whether or not the US could really become a force in world football and potentially win a World Cup. And boy, I need to ask you, this whole Messi to Miami thing, is this the first step to making it happen?
I don't believe in star signings. I personally don't believe that. I don't think this. I mean, it'll help grow the game, but fundamentally, the money's got to go back to the fundamentals of the game. You know, coaching the youth properly, put, putting in the right infrastructure, right development system, bringing in a star player like this. Okay, Messi is nowhere near the likes of the players that you know, a decade or so ago that China used to sign. You know, they signed Hulk, Oscar, Tevez, all these guys. They were really investing in them, in the foreign players, right? But where are they now? Where are China now? Nowhere to be seen in the world football because
Well, to be fair, Messi is a whole nother level to Hulk and Oscar, no disrespect.
no, I mean it's facts. There's no disrespect at all. Like Messi
But
is
you know what I'm saying? I get it. The Messi is a difference. But what I'm more looking at, like I agree with you in the sense that the money needs to be invested back in the system and fundamentally, foundationally, things need to change. Systematically, things need to change in the US development system. However, I think that Messi's introduction to the MLS is going to bring a lot of fans, a lot of viewers to football, a lot of young fans who now it's going to get brought down to them. So many people, not even just in America alone, every single fan when they hear Miami is going to come into town, they're gonna try to go to the game. I know for a fact, even in Cincinnati, those Cincinnati tickets are going to be skyrocketing when Miami comes to town. But even in Miami, I know that there's going to be so many people who turn fans and they're going to pass it on to their little brothers, their sons. They're going to also become Miami fans, even for long when Messi retires. And they're going to say, yo, like it was a hugest thing when Messi came to town and played for Miami. And now we're just diehard Miami fans. And that I could see that happening. And what that does is it instills the passion to the rest of the people, to the future generations. Now more people are going to want to play football and get involved in football. And maybe football as a sport does actually grab that LeBron James, who really just a physical specimen and just a beast of an athlete, decides to train in football now rather than basketball because the passion is there with football. And that could completely change the spectrum for US football. You now, instead of Steph Curry, that Steph Curry is actually Christian Pulisic now, just because the culture and the passion was in favor of football at the time of his youth development.
Well, yeah, I mean, I certainly see that as well. I mean, I was at the gym yesterday, and then the sports channels over here in America, I mean, they show anything but football, right? I mean, they even show what the cornhole thing, I think.
No,
It's
you're lying. They don't show
no, I'm not
cornhole on
lying. No,
TV,
I'm not.
bro.
I'm not joking. I'm at the gym and I mean, there's gyms have like 10 TVs, right? And I'm watching. There's cornhole. I'm like, what? You could be showing Copa Libertadores, anything, and they still choose to show cornhole over football. And yesterday I was at the gym working out and I was watching the TV. They had a whole dedicated section for Messi coming to America, and even brought on a guest to speak about football. And I mean that's big. So I can see. I mean, the I mean we're in this stage of social media. Inter Miami already have more followers than any American franchise. So that just speaks volumes to the impact of Messi itself. So there are certainly going to be positive effects of Messi. I mean, and Messi didn't just come here for, or maybe he did. He didn't just. I don't think he just came here for retirement. This has been a long time building in the basement. David Beckham's been trying to, I guess, lure Messi to come to Miami for the longest time. I'll say this: David Beckham has done more for American soccer than most Americans.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, David Beckham, another ridiculously marketable, probably the most marketable footballer, if not most marketable athlete
Oh, he
of all
ever
time.
ever.
Ever, yeah, of all time. So, I mean, that's understandable. If he goes somewhere, like, people are just gonna flock no matter what. Him and Ronaldo, those to me are like two just like out of the ordinary type of people. But another stat to go with that influence that you're talking about from Messi, the cheapest ticket for a Miami game, for an FC Miami game or Inter Miami game, is what, or was before Messi signed, $29. No, after Messi has signed, the cheapest Miami ticket is
Let me guess.
400. All right.
400.
No, it was 467, but what were you gonna guess?
I was gonna say 2000.
No, okay, good thing you never guessed that. No, because I would have made it sound pretty cheap. But nah, that is a ridiculous impact.
Yeah, I mean that makes me wonder. I mean, Inter Miami. By the way, there's no AC Miami for any fans wondering. Inter Miami play in a borrowed stadium right now in not even Miami, in Fort Lauderdale. It's what, 30 minutes drive up north from Miami, and it seats 18,000 people. There's just not enough demand for a player like Messi. Sorry. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? Not demand. Obviously, there's huge demand. There's no,
Capacity?
yeah, I mean, MLS doesn't have the capacity to hold a player like Messi. Like even I don't really watch the MLS. Even I might tune into MLS one of these days. So imagine people who actually live in Miami, all that stuff. And Miami is a very Hispanic heavy century, right? So, and a lot of Hispanic people are into football. So, I mean,
And not just that. I mean, Miami is just passionate about their sports in general. I mean, look at the Heat right now. They've always been passionate about the Heat to the point where, listen, like, I have a lot of connections in Miami. I used to live right near there in Orlando. I used to visit Miami a lot. They are even hype about the what is it? The Panthers, bro. The Panthers are the hockey team. Miami supporting their ice hockey team? that is how you know the passion is real for sports in that city. So imagine this now.
No offense to Panthers.
No offense to them at all, but I mean, come on, sunny, tropical. You're playing ice hockey. It's not expected to be popular.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Except for their baseball team, the Marlins are.
The Marlins, though, even them, they kind of support. Like they still want them to win and stuff. Like I feel like, I don't know. I feel the passion is there with Miami.
But yeah, I mean, this eclipses David Beckham coming to LA. I know he was only 31. He was coming from Real Madrid, but I mean, Messi, he just won the World Cup, and he's still comfortably one of the best attackers in Europe. I mean, he was slot into every Premier League team as a starter. I mean, Barcelona were on their knees trying to get him back. Although they did take a slight dig, I guess, at Messi, saying in the statement how he wanted to play in a less pressure environment. I mean, even if that is true, can you blame him? He's won everything. He's already won the World Cup. That was probably his last goal in football. And I never really viewed Messi as a workaholic. And that may not be fair, but I've always just looked at him as an outrageous talent. And of course, I'm sure he worked hard, but not to the level of, some of the top talents that are, all about football 24/7. I never viewed Messi as that. So to me, it makes sense that he came to America at this stage. He's only 33, right? But yeah, Americans, especially the people in Miami, are blessed to see him live if they can afford it.
Yeah, man, that is an experience that would be incredible for anybody. So looks like we're gonna be watching an MLS match here and there next season.
Well, yeah, that's the hottest ticket right now. I don't think. I mean, I know for a fact the LAFC game. That's what I was basing my guess off of. The lowest tickets are $2,000. LAFC, the best team in the MLS right now, right? LAFC versus the hottest team in MLS now, Inter Miami. Yeah, it's huge.
That's gonna be hype. So yeah, tune in for that. That's all we have time for today. Guys, thanks for tuning in as always. We hope you enjoyed your time with us. Remember to subscribe, to leave comments, and share with your friends. Follow us on social media at FOTBpod. Don't forget to leave a review, rating, and most importantly, don't forget to turn on those notifications. Join us again next time as we discuss the highly anticipated upcoming Premier League action. Thanks again as always. See you then.